On today's episode of PhotoKitchen, I throw magnetic modifiers, work with pocket lights, get my DIY on, and once again demonstrate no matter how good the lighting or how fit the LL Bean flannel, I will never look cool. Hello and welcome to episode 61 of PhotoKitchen. I am your humble host, MD Welch, and today on the menu, we have a lot. We're gonna do 2 gear reviews, 1 lighting application review with workflow tips and setup tricks, as well as some grip or gear rigging reviews on how best to modify or control your lighting from stuff that I've seen recently on YouTube and also some ideas I've come up with on my own. So this is a great episode. I hope you stick around for the entire thing. So let's dive right in and review our first piece of equipment, and that is the Aputure MC Pro. Now, the MC Pro is a pocket light, and maybe the most saturated part of the lighting market right now for filmmakers is pocket lights. The earliest LED panels were pocket lights, well, very large pocket lights. At that time, they were designed to really go on camera or maybe on a light stand, but the new pocket lights are much smaller and far more powerful. Now, the reason why I decided to get a pocket light was because I've done a lot of shoots recently where I needed lights to be in small locations where big lights just won't fit. Maybe it's an accent light, maybe it's a little bit of a kicker light, maybe it's putting a light on a small subject in the background just to draw your attention to it. Big lights are hard to put into those particular locations, and pocket lights are fantastic for it. And the MC Pro seems to be the light that's going to do all of that for me. Now, it's important to point out that Aputure also has an MC. So this is the MC Pro, and there's also an MC. And the MC Pro is the successor or the sequel to the MC. Now, there's nothing really wrong with the MC, but the MC Pro is better in every way, shape, and form. Same form factor, same runtime, about 2 hours, same charge time, about 90 minutes. But according to Aputure and other people that I've seen on YouTube, the MC Pro is about 4 times brighter. I don't have an MC to test, so I'm going to take their word for it, but this is a very bright light. It's also very compact, it's very lightweight, and it's very easy to use. There's only a couple of controls on the actual light itself. There is a power button, there's a USB port for charging, and a menu button on the side. The only other control that you have is this red metal dial that's nice and easy to see, easy to feel with texture, that also has a push button feature for going through the particular menus. The screen on the MC Pro is also better than the MC. It's a little bit larger, it's color, it's easy to read both in bright light, also in dark locations. And if those were the major differences between the MC and the MC Pro, that would be reason enough to buy the MC Pro. But I've actually skipped over maybe the best or biggest reason, and that is a magnetic front and magnetic back to this light. The light comes with 3 modifiers, and all of them attach to the front magnets really easily. You get a front diffuser, which will of course diffuse the light. A lot of LED panels produce a very harsh light, and if you're lighting somebody or something and you want a soft light, you're going to need some level of diffusion, and it's nice that they come included with this particular light. You have the flat panel. They also give you a dome diffuser, which is going to, of course, diffuse the light, but also spread it out a little bit more, give you a little bit more of a glow, increase that range of the light, or at least the spread of the light. And if you don't want that and you want to do the exact opposite, they give you a grid that attaches on the front. And I have to say that Aputure's done a great job with this particular system because most magnetic attachments fall off, especially if you stack them. And what's nice about the Aputure is there will be times that you need to not only do that flat panel, but also dome diffuser because you really want to diffuse the light. Of course, you're going to lose power, but if you're looking for a nice soft light on your subject or object that you're lighting, this is a great resource. Same is true with the grid. Maybe you want to be able to put the grid on, but then you're getting that kind of harshness from the actual panel itself. No problem. Grab the actual flat panel, drop it on there, put the honeycomb grid on, and they're not falling off. I've shook the hell out of these things off of camera. I haven't had a modifier fly off yet. The only time that happens is when I flip them around and get my magnets in the wrong order, and you get used to attaching them that way. I'm going to cover the actual back magnetic attachments a little bit later on this video, give you some interesting ways to mount this. But it is important to point out that Aputure also gives you another way to mount this particular light. They include this very nice ball head, standard ball head, nothing fancy here, that screws into the bottom of the light that you have on the bottom of here. But what's really nice about it is they also give you another magnetic attachment here. So if you needed to mount this light and then articulate that light, you have this nice little ball head. But if you wanted to, you could unscrew this magnet and then, wait for it, you can go ahead and attach this onto an on-camera light using the attached cold shoe here. So a couple of different ways to attach this particular light. It's very powerful, it's very easy to use, and when we talk about the app a little bit later on, you'll see what I mean by that. So before I go too deep in the review of this particular piece of equipment, I want to stress that I paid with this out of my own pocket. Aputure didn't give me this gear. They're not paying me to do this video. They don't have any say in this video. Aputure doesn't even know I exist. So this is an honest review with money out of my own pocket and how I'm using it for my own particular projects. Not everything is amazing about pocket lights. A pretty obvious problem is a lack of power. And in some cases though, this is not going to actually affect your lighting at all because you're going to mount this light so close to a subject or an area that you're going to get plenty of power out of that light. Maybe you're trying to recreate a candle flicker or a laptop glow screen on a subject. That light is just out of frame, hidden, and that's exactly what pocket lights are designed to do. But there are times that you need to mount more than one pocket light or have a more powerful light in a small location. So that begs the question, why buy one pocket light when you could have 8 of them? And this is the second part of the gear review. This is the Aputure 8 light kit. It is a very amazing kit. And honestly, I have to say, even in the short time that I've had it, I think Aputure has built one of the best lighting kits and cases that I've ever seen. Now, you get a lot of the obvious things. You get 8 Aperture MC Pros. You get 8 dome diffusers. You get 8 flat diffusers. You get 8 honeycomb grids. You also get some mounting gear too. You get 4 ball heads. You get 4 of these baby pins into the small screw. I think that's a 1/4-20. Always mix those up. That will go into the bottom of the light, as well as 2 clamps for clamping the light onto a small pipe or flat surface. You also get these small metal bars that you could use to attach the light to any surface. There's a small bit of adhesive on the back of these, and I have to say overall, they kind of underwhelm me, and that's going to lead into my rigging review a little bit later on. But I am going to keep them in the kit just in case of emergency. But maybe one of the best features of this kit is the case itself. Now, on the surface, it looks like your standard Pelican-like hard case. It's going to take a beating, it's going to take some abuse. But actually, it's not that at all. In fact, its worst feature is also its best feature because this is not weatherproof, waterproof in any way, shape, or form. You're not going to drop this down in the sand, you're not going to put this in the mud. That's because there's no O-ring in the actual case, and even worse, there's holes cut along the side and the back of the case for ventilation. Ventilation for what, you say? Well, this case is also the charging station for the lights. And I have to tell you, this is a fantastic feature. On the side of the case, you will find both a D-tap and AC port. So if you want to plug in a brick battery, you could do that and plug it in using the supplied D-tap or P-tap cable. And they also supply a standard AC cable that you could go ahead and plug into the side of the case. Now, once you do that, there's this very cool rocker switch that kind of feels like something out of a 1980s action movie. You flick that on and you will get a status of lights on the side of each of the MC Pro lights. Red means it's charging, green means that it is charged. You will also see the lights on the LED screens light up, giving you a charging status. The only thing that I have found about this kit that I don't like is that you can't depend on that status. They will all hit 99 relatively quickly, and then they will sit there. Charging time is supposed to be about 90 minutes plugged into a wall, so I would just set a timer on that on your watch or your clock because you can't really depend on that percentage. It's just going to stay at 99. But once it goes green, it is fully charged and you're ready to pull the light out and drop it in. And there's no cable or anything. There's just these little pins on the bottom that you just drop it in and you will see that light pop up. So not only do you have your case to transport, but you also have your charging station. You don't have a sea of cables or power adapters running around. And now you have 8 lights instead of 1 to work with. And last thing to point out about the case, you do have 2 USB ports on here with 2 supplied USB-A to C cables. The USB-A ports are rated for 5 volt, 2 amps. So you could charge another MC Pro light or 2 if you had 2 more lights running around, but you could also charge some smaller accessories, maybe a Bluetooth speaker, or in my case, I've charged my phone with this. And all in all, this is a very nice kit. And I can't tell you the amount of times that you show up on location and you have to occupy a massive corner of a studio space or a location just to start charging all of your batteries. This is great. Set this kit up, pop the lid open, plug it in, and let it charge. And that is important. The lid needs to be open while you're charging this so any heat from the charging of the batteries can't escape. Even though there's ventilation on the side, you still need to have the lid open. Now, before we go too deep into setting up the MC Pro and also talking about some of those mounting features I mentioned earlier, I do want to circle back and talk about the difference between the MC and the MC Pro, especially when it comes to pricing. The MC is about $90 at the time of this recording without any sales being applied. The MC Pro is about $190 without any sales being applied. So let's call that $100 to $200. But keep in mind, for twice as much money, you're getting 4 times brighter light out of this particular unit, and it's about the same footprint. Now, you also have kits available to you as well for the MC. You have a 4 light kit and a 12 light kit. I forget what the 4 light kit costs, but new at the time of this recording, this 12 light kit is about $1,600. This 8 light kit will set you back about $1,900. So let's just call that $2,000. Again, you are getting more power out of these lights, but it's kind of hard to turn down for more lights in that 12 light kit. And it's important to stress that that 12 light kit has all of the cool wireless charging that this 8 light kit has. Also, the MC has a magnetic backing for attaching and also full RGB, effect controls, and also gels. So it is a very powerful light source at a budget. But I think that the more powerful light here is something that is going to appeal to a lot more photographers and filmmakers. The ability to only have to mount one of these rather than maybe 2 or 3 to get the same size of light source or same power out of that light source. That is a huge feature. Also, it sounds very petty, but that magnetic attachment on the front is far better than the rubber kind of gasket thing that comes with the MC. So part of the reason why I bought this particular kit was I wanted to spice things up in PhotoKitchen when it came to lighting. I wanted to put some lights underneath the cabinets in the background just to add a little bit more depth and create something a little bit more visually interesting in the background. I also wanted to possibly light up my dining room, which I'm just using the dining room lights in the background to illuminate that. And I wanted to see if I could replace the Kino Flow that I'm using as a kind of separation and fill light. Now, it's not to say that the Kino Flow is a bad light. It's a Diva Light 401. I will stack it up against any LED panel that exists. Yes, it's fluorescent tube. Yes, it's daylight only and you have to gel things. It produces a beautiful quality of light. The light's not the issue. It's the setup time, it's the teardown time, it's the fact that it's in a 2 light kit, hard case that I got to kind of dig through in the back of my gear area to get to. I wanted to see if I could do something smaller. And all around this time, I started watching reviews on lighting gear, and a gentleman pointed out mounting these particular lights. Now, as I pointed out before, there are these little metal tabs with an adhesive on the back here that you could use to attach these to a non-metallic surface or a non-magnetic metallic surface. But the problem is they're kind of a one and done thing. And to be honest with you, while the adhesive probably will hold, it just doesn't look all that great. And again, once you've used it, it's done. I want to hold on to these just in case I need them someday. But what this particular YouTuber pointed out is, hey, just run to any home improvement center, grab yourself, a couple of metal plates there. And now, in this case, I got this out of the drywall section. You have supplied screw holes here. You have larger ones if you needed to mount something, a bigger bolt or something like that. And in my case, I'm just going to use some gaffer's tape. But now you could take this plate and you could go ahead and mount your light wherever you want to. And I've already put a couple of plates underneath the cabinets and I'm going to mount them in just 1 second. But this holds really well and secures it. And if you gaff tape it correctly, will probably hold the light for a significant amount of time. So that metal plate trick solves my under the cabinet lighting problem. It actually creates a lot of solutions for mounting those lights. Rather than trying to use these small little metal tabs to adhere them into certain places, I have a much larger surface that's easier to tape down. Or again, if I could use screws or bolts, I could do that as well. And it's a lot easier to attach the light because you just have a larger surface. You're not hunting around for these small little tabs. But that still led me to a solution, or trying to make a solution for the Kino Flow that I have over here. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking, if not typing it in right now. Yeah, there's a solution. They've been making it for years. Tube lights. There's the Infinity Bar or the MCT from Aputure. Both of them would provide a solution that I'm looking for out of the Kino Flow here. But the problem with tube lights is you can't make them any smaller. Sure, they come in 1 foot, 2 foot, and 4 foot sections, and you can make them longer. But in this particular case, I like working with small lights, and I wanted to see if I could make a actual pocket light longer. I wanted to see if I could extend this. So that led me going to a home supply store and making not the most evil looking spank paddle in the world, but an actual light bar for my pocket lights. Now, the construction of this is pretty simple. It's a 4 foot long board. I don't need all this excess. I'll probably cut it off, sand it, paint it black so it looks a little bit nicer. But then I ran into the drywall section again and grabbed a longer metal metal plate, same type of construction and metal that I'm using for underneath the cabinets here. Put 4 screws into that. The wood is fairly lightweight. I don't want this to be super heavy, but this is what's going to hold my actual lights, because I could just go ahead and drop this down and now I have a light that's not going anywhere. Now, attaching it to a light stand was a little bit trickier, but fortunately the fine people at Matthews already created a solution for me. This is a gobo plate, and I'm sure other people have already made it. And by the way, the making of this board is the stretch of my DIY skills. But if I was a little bit more skilled, I probably could have just taken a baby pin and made something like this. But it's great that Matthews does this for us. And yes, I'm a Matthews fanboy. But again, just like Aputure, they don't know that I'm doing this video. The gobo plate has a lot of different functions. It has a section where you could put it into a grip head, multiple holes for mounting, multiple holes for carabiner, safety wires, those kinds of things. In my case, 4 holes that I was able to mount this into on the board. And now I have a baby head that I could take and mount my lights on this particular board. And now I have a light bar. And you could tell that the magnets on the lights are so strong that I don't think I'm going to have to worry about these things sliding off or down. Now, I'm going to add some dome diffusers to these in a second, but this is a pretty good setup. Now, my initial dreams of lighting up the dining room got a little bit squashed because the pocket lights aren't really bright enough, at least with 2 of them, to light up the dining room. So I took a 3rd light, I put it underneath the cabinet over there, and then I took the last remaining light, and I will now have 5 of these for actually having a light bar. And of course, I'm going to take this second bracket here so I can make another light bar. So if I want to do 4 and 4 for something for special effects, I have that. But a little DIY ingenuity, and I have created a solution that's going to help me out with the Keynote flows. So let's go ahead and get this all set up. So I have all the lights set up, and we need to talk about how I control all of these things. And in truth, I pulled a bit of a Julia Child. We are in the PhotoKitchen. Shout out to the GOAT. But I've already set up all of these lights and have them ready to go. But I want to walk you through how I did that and how the features that I'm using is going to make setting up PhotoKitchen in the future a lot faster. Now, controlling these lights can be done a lot of different ways. You have DMX, you have CDMX, I think I'm saying that correctly, and you have Bluetooth. I need to point out that the MC Pro is a CDMX receiver, which a lot of other lighting people rave about on YouTube. I don't have a need for that right now, but it's cool because I guess you could use it as a receiver, plug it into a light that doesn't have that feature using an accessory cable, and you could control it over that network. In my case, at least in PhotoKitchen, I'm using Bluetooth. All you need to control the lights with Bluetooth are Bluetooth being turned on all the lights, Bluetooth being turned on your smart device, and you download the Sidious app. Terrible name, great features. Once you have the app downloaded, what you're going to do is you're going to create a new scene. And I'll talk about the importance of scenes in just 1 second. Once you create a scene, you can hit the plus button and add a new fixture. Now, when you do the new fixture, it actually gives you some instructions, but essentially you go into the menu of whatever light that you're using, at least by Aputure, and you go into Bluetooth reset, and that will actually detect the light on reset. You could give the light a name. Yeah, you should name all of your lights. Give them unique names or for whatever that they're being used for. Now, what gets even better is you can add those lights to groups. So right now, these 5 lights on this bar are in a group called Fill. These 3 lights in the background are in a group called Kitchen Cabinets, and my main light is just a light by itself called Main. Now, the beauty of groups and the beauty of this app and the beauty of scenes is every time that I set this up, as long as I put the right lights on the right locations, I just power this thing on and it will remember the gels, the power settings, everything like that. So I'm going to come into the app here. I already have it set up. I'm going to click on Kitchen Cabinets. And one thing to point out when you first turn these things on, and you do have to turn them on manually at the light, a lot of times you have to turn them off and then turn them back on, and then that will establish the link. But from there, the controls are pretty simple. You could do your normal controls. You could go to RGB. In my case, I'm using the gel feature because I worked with gels so much. I speak that language, and it's a language for me to understand really easy. I don't have to dial in RGB values or dial in white balance settings or Kelvin settings. So for my kitchen cabinets back here, I was running them earlier at a very, very high amount of warmth. In this case, I've just set it over to double CTO. a little bit too much. I think I was doing half CTO at the beginning, but really I'm not a big fan of CTO. I like CTS, color temperature straw, over orange. It's not as much red. So I think I'm going to do either a quarter or an eighth of that actual gel. And the beauty is the app shows you these gels. You can do this on the lights, but the controls aren't as precise. It's not easy to see the colors. Plus, you're doing multiple groups here. So since all three of these lights are in a group, I could change them to whatever that I want to. There is, let's see. There is fluorescent green in the background, just with a press. We could do full CTO, ND. There's a lot of options here. So I'm gonna go back to a quarter CTS. And of course, because this is remembering this, when I power this back on and set these lights back on, I don't have to do anything other than just hit the switch and they're good to go. In fact, honestly, remembering where they are, I set them up, they remember their last position. But if I'm going from one shoot to another shoot, I just have to go ahead and set that scene up. And then of course, select the groups. My fill here is called fill. That's very appropriate. I'll go back to fixtures. I'll click on that. Right now I'm at 60% on all 5 of these lights. They're at 1/8 CTS. I don't need them to be super warm, but I want a little bit of warmth to contrast with my white light. That's my main. I'm going to use, yes, believe it or not, an actual light meter. This is set up for cinema. I have it already set up to all my camera settings, 400 ISO. I'm shooting 24 frames per second, 23.976. And with a shutter angle of 180 or 1/50th, 1/48th of a second. So I'll go ahead and do this, cover my hand here, and I'm getting 2.5. This is 5.6. I want this to be 2 stops under. So I'm gonna come into here and I'm just going to go up. So that's full power. I'm gonna come down maybe from 60 to maybe 80. That's probably gonna be too much, but let's just take a look here. Indeed 3.2. So I'll just fidget with this a little bit. 2.5, let's go to 77, 2.8, there we go. So because that light fixture is going to move around a little bit every time I do filming, it's awesome that I can control that light power from this. I don't have to go to each individual light. Using my light meter, I can get my ratio exactly where I want to. Maybe I want to switch things up from one episode to another, change background lighting, maybe cool this down, warm this up a little bit as I start to progress. I have a lot of options here. And that's what I love about this MC Pro kit. It's giving me a lot of options, a lot of possibility on how to mount these little lights, control these lights, make them into bigger lights with the power of DIY. I mean, we haven't even talked about all the features like the ability to do different effects and make this look like there's cops or sirens outside or I'm in a nightclub. And by the way, if you want more information on the Sidious app and controlling that and setting things up, let me know in the comments section down below. I'll gladly do a standalone video on that. But for the moment, I think this is enough. I think you see the potential of this kit. If you're on the fence budget-wise, that MC kit with 12 lights is going to give you a very similar result. It's going to be less money. It will be less power, but you got 4 more lights, so that's a nice feature. I don't think you could necessarily go wrong with that kit, but I think this is a much better kit, a much better light, a much better solution. I really like it. Hey, speaking of like, I hope you've liked this video. If so, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And if you have, thank you so much for your support. And share this with anybody who's thinking about purchasing pocket lights or is curious if DIY is still a thing on set or wants to control their lights using wireless application control. And until next time, I'm MD Welch wishing you all the best from the new and improved PhotoKitchen.